There are places that humans were never supposed to build, not because they lacked the knowledge, because the idea itself, carving a city into a vertical cliff, raising a palace to the top of a freestanding rock spire, hiding a monastery in a crevice above a drop, sounds insane. Physically impossible, logistically impossible, just impossible, period. And yet they're standing. Some of them 1,000 years old, some more than 2,000. Not one of them looks built. They look like the rock itself decided to become a fortress and just carved away everything it didn't need. At the end of this list, a place where modern engineers with diamond saws and cranes say one word: impossible. Let's go. Picture this. You're standing on a mountain trail, looking up. There's a building in the sheer cliff face nearly 3,000 feet above you. White walls, gold rooftops, locked into a vertical drop so completely you can't tell where the rock ends and the wall begins. It's hanging there where nothing should be. No road, no lift, just a trail going straight up for 3 hours. Tiger's Nest, Bhutan, 8th century. According to tradition, the Buddhist master Padmasambhava flew here on the back of a tigress and meditated in a cave for 3 months. Where he meditated a few centuries later, they started building a monastery at an elevation where there's no flat surface wider than a human shoulder. How the builders got materials up there is not a single documented answer. The only version that's even physically possible: everything was lowered by rope from the cliff above the monastery. Which means first someone had to climb higher than the monastery, then lower hundreds of tons of stone and timber down the face, then build a structure hanging over a void. The monks who live there now have a simple explanation. It was the will of Buddha. There are no other explanations. None at all. 12th century, southern Georgia. The Mongols are coming from the east. Queen Tamar makes a decision. Don't build a wall. Build a city inside the mountain. Workers cut into the rock and don't stop for years. The result, 600 meters of cliff face, 19 floors deep, 6,000 rooms. A throne room, a library, a pharmacy, 25 wine cellars, an aqueduct 2 miles long feeding water directly into the rock. The only entrance, a secret tunnel on the riverbank that only a select few knew about. From the outside, just a mountain. Nothing. A Persian chronicler called Vardzia, the wall of Alexander the Great, impenetrable. The Mongols never took it. What took it was the earthquake of 1283. It collapsed 2/3 of the cliff face and exposed what had been hidden inside. Today, 7 monks live in the tunnels. They drink from an ancient spring. They guard Queen Tamar's frescoes, still in color after 800 years. Central Sri Lanka. Sticking out of flat jungle, a vertical granite monolith, nearly 600 feet tall. Sheer walls with nothing to grab, just a needle of rock jammed into the earth. And at the very top, the ruins of a palace, a throne room, baths with running water, gardens, 5th century. King Kashyapa killed his father, took the throne, and knew his brother was coming for revenge. He picked the most unreachable place in the country and built his capital at the summit. Getting up there requires 1,270 steps cut directly into the granite. Halfway up, there's a gallery carved into the rock face, painted with 500 women, believed to be the king's harem. Original pigments. 15 centuries, no restoration. The entrance to the upper level was a gateway shaped like a giant lion. What's left are just the paws, 2 stone claws the size of a person, gripping the step. The head and body fell at some point between the 5th and 14th century. Nobody recorded when. The paws are still there, looking down at the jungle, waiting for something that's never coming back. In a sheer limestone cliff, 400 feet tall, a natural cave. Built inside that cave, fitted to its exact shape, is a castle. Not stuck onto the outside, fitted in, the walls follow the curves of the rock, blend into it so completely that the line between nature and structure disappears. Guinness World Records, the largest cave castle on Earth. 13th century. A knight named Erasem of Lueg, a wanted criminal of the Holy Roman Empire, hid here and held a siege for over a year. The cave behind the castle ran deep into the mountain and came out the other side of the ridge, a secret tunnel. Through it, Erasem got food and supplies. At one point, while the army had him surrounded, he threw fresh cherries and a roasted ox out the window, just to make sure they could see he was doing fine. The rock deflected cannonballs. A ground assault was physically impossible. Predjama could not be taken. Then one of his own servants told the enemy exactly when Erasem used the bathroom, which was in a side tower. They aimed a cannon at it. That is the only documented way this castle has ever been taken. No other method exists. Central Greece. Rising out of flat plain, vertical rock pillars. Not mountains, pillars. Freestanding with flat tops up to 2,000 feet tall. And on top of those pillars, monasteries. Not at the base, not on the slope, on top of a sheer column of rock. Monks started living up here in the 9th century, in cracks in the stone. Then they started building. Materials went up in nets on hand-cranked winches, 2,000 feet vertical, hundreds of pounds at a time. Until the 20th century, the only way in was the same net. You climbed in, someone cranked you up. When one monk was asked how often they replaced the rope, he said, "When it breaks." Of the original 24 monasteries, 6 are still standing. The other 18 fell, straight down, with everyone inside. Stairs were cut into the rock in the 1920s and finally made the tops accessible. Before that, just the rope, and the belief that it wouldn't break right now. The Jordanian Desert. A narrow gorge, the Ethiopia, stretches for nearly a mile between walls of rock 260 feet high. The walls close in. The sky above shrinks to a sliver. And then, at the end, with no warning, a facade 40 feet tall, carved into rose-red sandstone. Columns, friezes, an urn at the top. That's the treasury. That's the entrance to Petra. The Nabataeans didn't build. They subtracted. They cut their capital out of the inside of a cliff. Petra held 30,000 people, had sewers, aqueducts, and was the wealthiest trading city in the region. Then an earthquake hit, the trade routes shifted, and it just vanished for 1,000 years. Europeans rediscovered it in 1812. Before that, nobody knew it existed except the local Bedouins, who didn't say anything. The rock changes color through the day, pink at sunrise, orange at noon, deep red at sunset. Less than 15% of the site has been excavated. 85% of Petra is still underground. What's there? Nobody knows. 12th century, Ethiopia. King Lalibela receives a vision. God shows him the New Jerusalem and tells him to build it here in the Ethiopian highlands. Lalibela starts, but not the way anyone builds anything. He doesn't raise walls. He removes rock. Workers start at the top and cut downward, stripping away layer after layer of volcanic tuff. Walls emerge on the outside, then columns. Then inside, a finished church appears, with nave, altar, carved detail. All from a single piece of stone. Not one seam. 11 churches total, some connected by tunnels cut through the rock between them. The largest is 108 feet long, 40 feet high, bigger than most medieval European cathedrals. Carved, not built. All of it was finished in roughly 24 years. With 12th century tools, that's physically impossible. The king's explanation was simple. At night, angels continued the work in place of the men. That is the only official explanation that has ever existed. There is no other. To this day. You're standing by a river looking at a cliff, an ordinary gray cliff. Then you notice a window in it, then another one, then an arch, then a staircase going straight up into the stone. These aren't cracks. This is a city. It's just hidden inside the mountain, looking out at you through empty openings. Uplistsikhe, Central Georgia. 1st millennium BC. 70 meters above the Kura River, carved into sandstone. Everything a city needs. Rooms, halls, a prison, a pharmacy, pagan temples later converted to Christian churches, and one large hall that's worth the trip on its own. Its ceiling is carved to imitate wooden coffered panels, a technique from palace architecture. But it's solid stone, reproducing a wooden structure that never existed. Someone took hard sandstone and cut into it an exact copy of wood. Not because they couldn't build in wood, because they wanted the stone to look like wood. Why, nobody knows. There is no explanation in any historical source. Uplistsikhe was continuously inhabited for 25 centuries. Most cities that old don't exist even as a name. 10,000 feet up in the mountains of Peru, hours from any road, a fortress. Not Machu Picchu, Kuap. The citadel of the Chachapoya people, the Cloud Warriors. 6th century AD. Walls 65 feet high, 2,000 feet long. Inside, 400 circular stone structures of fitted limestone. There's one entrance, a single tunnel that narrows to the width of one person. One defender can hold it against any army. The Incas, who conquered essentially all of South America, fought the Chachapoya for nearly 40 years. They never took Kuap. They eventually negotiated. The Spanish came later, found the fortress, had no idea what to do with it, and left. A cable car to Kuap opened in 2017. Before that, you got there on foot through jungle. That's why most Peruvians have seen Machu Picchu but never seen Kuap. And that's exactly why it survived. They just didn't find it fast enough to destroy it. 8th century, Maharashtra, India. Workers arrive at a basalt hillside. Their assignment, build a temple. They start, but they don't lay a foundation and they don't raise walls. They cut from the top down, remove rock, layer by layer, year by year. The result is the Kailasa temple at Ellora, 105 feet tall, 276 feet long. Around it, a rock-cut courtyard with 2 levels of carved galleries in the surrounding walls. Full-scale stone elephants carry the entire perimeter on their backs. Columns, friezes, life-size figures of gods, all from a single piece of hill. Not constructed. Freed from stone, like a sculpture. Cathedral scale. 400,000 tons of basalt were removed. Basalt only cuts with iron or diamond. In 8th century India, there was neither industrial iron in sufficient quantities nor diamond tools. Engineering estimates for what was available, 150 to 200 years of continuous work. The official version, it took about 100 years. That's 10 tons of basalt every single day for a century with jeweler's precision. Engineers who've studied Kailasa put it plainly. Today, it's reproducible, with diamond saws, pneumatic drills, and cranes. Without those tools, it's not possible. Not in 100 years, not in 500. Kailasa has stood for 1,200 years. Earthquakes don't touch it. It wasn't built. It was cut from living rock that is itself a monolith. It doesn't ask beautiful questions. It just stands there, as proof that either our picture of the 8th century is wrong, or something happened at this place that we don't understand. Pick your version.